His head was dropped to the side, as if he had lost consciousness. When Kiln saw that it was Lang Ying, he moved to save him, but quickly stopped in his step, his mind coming around. There was clearly no one else but White No-Face here earlier, so why would Lang Ying suddenly appear? Seeing that the pure and holy statue of the God-pleasing crown prince was corrupted by dripping blood, Guan was obviously enraged, his expression radiating dark fury, and the scimitar erming exuded a chilling aura. "Get the hell down," he said. As expected, Lang Ying's drooping head righted itself, blinking open his eyes, and slowly pulled himself down from the sword, dropping to the ground. Earlier, when White No-Face blew up that wave of silver butterflies that had surrounded to attack him, he used that moment of blinding silver light to hide himself under the white veil of this divine statue, and transformed into the appearance of Lang Ying. Since he could disguise himself as Lang Ying, it meant he must have seen Lang Ying before somewhere. "Where's the real Lang Ying?" Kiln demanded. "Your Highness, maybe there never was a real Lang Ying," Guan suggested. If, since the beginning, Lang Ying had never existed, and it was only White No-Face in his unrecovered form, then everything could be easy to explain. But when Kiln remembered the little girl, Xiao Ying, who had died on Mount Yujun, he would rather this explanation be illogical. He then swiftly thought of another possibility and said slowly, "Or perhaps he devoured Lang Ying." Hearing this, the Lang Ying before them started growing taller, his body pulling upwards, the bandages on his face unwrapping and shedding, revealing that mask inside. He slightly lifted his head, seeming to be smiling. "You guessed right." So that was indeed it. White No-Face was certainly pulverized and dispersed by Junwu. However, he clung on and left a wisp of a broken soul drifting in the mortal realm. Who knows how long he drifted? Who knows when it happened? But he found Lang Ying, who possessed the same ghost body. He must have used some way to seduce or deceive Lang Ying into making Lang Ying agree to hosting him on his own body. Otherwise, by his remaining weak soul, he might not have had the ability to devour Lang Ying. He stayed glued on Lang Ying's body and slowly recovered, and the end result was what was before Kiln and Guan now. Ghost devouring ghost. White No-Face ate his host Lang Ying. Just as how He Xuan devoured the reverend of empty words, Lang Ying, ironically, became his slave. It took only a few words before Lang Ying had completely transformed into the appearance of White No-Face. Guan eyed him. Why would Lang Ying agree to letting you borrow his spirit body? A request like this was no different than a stranger asking, "Please open your doors and let me in to live in your house and eat your food." Lang Ying was still a ghost who lived for hundreds of years, after all. And while he was timid and hesitant, he shouldn't be this foolish. White No-Face replied warmly, "I can of course answer your question, but are you sure the one next to you would want me to say it here?" Guan looked to his side. Kiln's expression was slightly strange and didn't notice his gaze at all. White No-Face then said, "Surname Lang, Yong An, the human face disease. Why did he agree to let me eat him? Can you not guess why?" Kiln's face was instantly paled by a shade. The veins on the back of his hands popped, and he slashed with his sword, shouting, "Shut up!" White No-Face sidestepped and avoided the strike. But there was a clang, and the attack sliced through the sword gripped in the hands of his own divine statue. Now he'd done it. The God-pleasing crown prince statue wielded a broken sword, and the statue itself thus became a ruined artifact. Kiln instantly snapped out of it, like he was suddenly drenched by a bucket of cold water. It was as if the wraith butterflies were outraged and they swarmed over. White No-Face laughed emotionlessly, casual and at ease, and using his sleeve to cover his face. He no longer persisted and swiftly disappeared into the darkness. Kiln stared at that broken stone sword on the ground and muttered to Hua Cheng, "I'm sorry." However, Hua Cheng said, "Gogo, don't be silly. Why apologize to me? He's gone. Now what?" Kiln somewhat pulled himself together and replied, "Did he flee? We can't let him enter the kiln." The two chased out of the cave of 10,000 gods and hiked onto the snowy mountain once more. Right as they came out, they could feel the earthquake and the mountain shake. They looked upwards, and waves of avalanche were crashing down. Compared to the one they experienced before, this roaring avalanche was only bigger, not smaller. It was as if something buried under the heavy snow was awakened and was roaring. "Can we still make it up there?" Kiln wondered. Hua Cheng clutched his hand firmly and said, "We can, if you follow me." The two went up against the crashing current of ice and snow. Sure enough, while it was difficult and extremely dangerous, and every step they took, they had to take 3 back, they still avoided the most violent of the snow and rubble flow and the countless pits, creating a path up the mountain from their tireless charging. Finally, they hiked to the highest point. Ice sealed the mountaintop, so thick, who knew how deep it was, and how many layers were frozen beneath. Kiln felt that if he tried going even a bit faster, he would slip. But Hua Cheng held his hand and moved forward with steady steps, completely unafraid. The two came to the mouth of the volcano, and that opening looked like a giant mouth shouting to the heavens, exceedingly impressive. Looking downwards, it was complete darkness below. Maybe it was his imagination, but in the deepest recesses, there seemed to be a terrifying red light flashing in intervals. Sometimes there, sometimes not. Kiln felt slight panic for some reason, and he held down the bamboo hat on his head, making sure it didn't get blown away by the snowy winds. Did he go in already? Hua Cheng took a glance before his expression turned grim. Yes. How do you know? The kiln is closing. Kiln was taken aback and instantly felt caught off guard. What's going on? Why is it closing so soon? Don't there need to be at least several ghosts inside before the slaughtering can begin? That's the usual case, Hua Cheng said. However, if the kiln believes that the entrant has an extremely high potential of breaking through, then as long as that ghost makes the mountain sealing request, it will close. After a pause, he added, "That's what I did back then." "So is he a supreme or not?" Kiln asked. "What will happen if a supreme ghost king enters the kiln again?" It's the same thing as what would happen to an ascended heavenly official who has gone through another heavenly calamity. Which meant, if he was already strong, he would become even stronger. If they allowed White No-Face to cross this obstacle, then the consequences would be unimaginable. And after he exited the mountain as a supreme, the first one he would seek would surely be Kiln. Eyeing that bottomless infinite abyss for a while, Kiln said slowly, "Sun Lung, I might need to go down there to resolve things." "Go, I'll come with you," Hua Cheng replied quietly. Kiln looked up and gazed at him. Hua Cheng looked up too and met his eyes, cocking an eyebrow as he smirked. "It's just going down to kill an eyesore and then breaking through the kiln again. That's all. It's not like it's anything hard." Seeing him so relaxed, Kiln's tensed emotions seemed to have loosened some too, and he smiled. An instant later, Hua Cheng said, "However, there is one thing." Kiln was confused. He tilted his head, and one of Ho Chang's arms suddenly snaked around his waist and brought him into his arms. The other hand lifted his chin gently. Then his lips were enveloped. They kissed and embraced for a long time in the snowstorm before their lips slowly parted. Shilin was dazed for a good moment before he jolted, came to, and became flustered, widening his eyes. Whoa, what's this all of a sudden? Although it wasn't the first time they had done something like this. Before, they had always used grand and dignified reasons, like lending spiritual powers, transferring air, or accident to justify their actions. Now that some things had come out into the open, these excuses were suddenly exposed to be falsehoods, and the meaning of these actions became much more significant. He nearly didn't know where to put his hands, to hold onto Ho Chang's arms, or to push against Ho Chang's chest. Should he hold back or block Ho Chang's face? Next to his ear, Ho Chang seemed to have puffed a breath, and he whispered, "I'll lend a bit of spiritual power to your highness in case of an emergency. Will you accept it?" Shilin unconsciously swallowed, and he stuttered. This is a bit. It seems too much. I haven't paid you back for all the times before." "It's not much. There's no rush. Take your time to pay back. The account will clear one day," Ho Chang said. Shilin unearned randomly a couple of times, and was just about to run away when Ho Chang pulled him to a stop, pointing out, "Your Highness, where are you running to? You're going in the wrong direction." Only then did Shilin discover that he was running back the way they came, and immediately turned back around, even slipping on the ice once. He quickly pressed down on his bamboo hat. "No, I'm just a little cold. Thought I'd jog around a bit, warm up." He put the bamboo hat on, but then put it on his back to carry, and then wore it again. Finally, he held onto Ho Chang's hand, gripping it tightly. The two stood side by side and watched that immense abyss below. Ho Chang's voice was casual. "After this is all resolved, I'll show Gurga, my proudest sculpted statue." "Okay," Shilin replied. Then the two jumped down together. The gusts of wild winds shaved past his ears, a force so strong it was like crashing waves. But their hands weren't separated by that power, and instead they held on even harder. Yet unexpectedly, halfway in the air, Shilin's grip turned empty. It wasn't that his hand slipped or Ho Chang had let go. The hand held in his palm disappeared all of a sudden. No more substance. Shilin's heart lurched, and he shouted, "San Lang!" He was falling rapidly, and his cry a moment ago was already over 10 miles above his head, his voice sounding unreal. It was a long time before Shilin finally landed steadily. He immediately rose to his feet and called out, "San Lang?" There was no answer. Only a hollow echo told him just what an immense, empty space he was currently standing in. It was darkness all around except for above, and Shilin looked up. Above, there was a snow-white sky, and it was gradually shrinking. That must be the mouth of the kiln slowly closing. But where did Ho Chang go? There was a crackle and a whoosh, and Shilin lit up a palm torch, hoping to illuminate and see just what things were like down here. However, the darkness was immeasurably deep, and this little bit of flame couldn't show anything. The firelight itself seeming to be coldly absorbed by the dark void. Moreover, he accidentally didn't control his powers well, and the flames erupted a little too high, almost burning his own head, so he quickly tossed that fire onto the ground. Coincidentally, that firelight brightened the back of a faint, white silhouette not far away. Shilin was instantly alarmed. "Who is it?" That white silhouette turned around and answered quietly, you know who I am." Although he answered, the muscles on that man's face did not move an inch. Naturally, since it wasn't the face of a man, but that of a half-crying, half-smiling mask. Kiln blurted out, "San Lang." Even though he would get uncontrollable chills and terror when he saw this face, the score wasn't because he was scared, but because he was worried. Of course, there was still no one who answered, and that cry-smiling mask had come closer by another step. No need to yell anymore. The kiln is now sealed shut. There is now only you and me in here, no third person. Kiln looked up again. Earlier, there was still a small snowy white sliver of sky, but now that little bit of light was completely swallowed by the darkness around them, which meant the kiln had truly sealed the mountain. Kiln had never expected things would turn out like this. Him and White No-Face, the two of them, locked inside the kiln. Just them two? Why them two? Kiln gripped Feng Xin and pointed the sword at him. "What is going on here? Are you meddling again? Where is he? Where is he right now?" White No-Face clamped the edge of the sword with 2 fingers, and the other hand flicked upon the blade, making a clang sound, clear and crisp. "He's gone." Kiln watched this move of his, and his eyes turned cold. "Explain yourself clearly. What do you mean, gone?" "He doesn't want to follow you anymore. He left, dead. What do you think?" White No-Face said. Kiln first felt his heart drop. Then immediately after, a violent rage rolled up, and he struck. "Stop your nonsense." White No-Face once again caught that blade effortlessly. Fine. I was talking nonsense. Don't worry. I've already sent him outside the kiln, so even if he wants to rush over now, it'd be too late. Kiln really didn't mind whether Hua Cheng could make it, as long as he was okay, and he quietly sighed a breath of relief. White No-Face continued. "But it's probably for the best that he doesn't come in. Otherwise, even if he doesn't think so now, later, when he sees the state of you, who knows if he'll still want to be with you." Kiln couldn't stand him anymore and swung his sword again, yelling, "Shut up! I've had enough of you. What do you want? Just what do you want? How long are you going to keep clinging to me?" White No-Face easily dodged every single one of his strikes, and Kiln cried in rage, "Why haven't you died? Why did you come to the kiln?" "Because of you," White No-Face replied. Kiln's movement faltered, and he huffed a breath. "What do you mean?" White No-Face answered languidly, "Because you've come, so I've come too." Hearing an answer like this, Kiln's face was going twisted. However, no matter how enraged he was, how strong his murderous intent, it was as if White No-Face could forever predict what his next strike would be, and avoided each attack by mere millimeters. The more Kiln struck, the more he understood a cruel fact. He couldn't win. That's right. Like he could read his mind, White No-Face said, "You can't win." The moment those words left his lips, a blade was pierced through Kiln's wrist. Excruciating pain spread throughout his body, and Kiln involuntarily loosened his grip on the sword. The next second, his hair was grabbed, he was forcibly yanked back, and then bashed into the ground. His ears were ringing, his nose and mouth were filled with the astringents of blood, and his head concussed. It was a while later before Kiln felt a hand pull his head out from the shattered ground, and a voice came from above. So sad, so pitiful. Kiln choked out a mouthful of blood. White No-Face said, "Every time I meet your highness, you always look like this. Makes one ache, makes one excited." Kiln bit back another mouthful of blood, refusing to let it be coughed out and he croaked, "Don't be too pleased. I might not be able to win against you right now, but someone can. Even if you can emerge from the kiln, Jinwoo could very well kill you again. Besides, there's still Ho-chung." Yet unexpectedly, White No-Face replied, "Who says that the one who will emerge from the kiln will be me?" Hearing this, Shillian was taken aback. Not him. Who else could it be if not him? White No-Face lifted his face to look at his eyes, and he said warmly, "Your Highness, I think you might have misunderstood. There certainly will be a Supreme who will emerge from this kiln, but it won't be me. It will be you." Shillian was shaken to the core. "What did you say? I'm not." Before he even finished, he understood, and instantly his body was covered in cold sweat from the shock. White No-Face said, "That's right. That's exactly it. Congratulations. You finally understood my real objective. Isn't this your favorite, third path?" Currently in the kiln, there was only one Supreme and one God, and by the looks of things, there were only two paths to take. Either White No-Face killed him and emerged from the kiln, or the two could be trapped within the kiln forever, escaping an erstwhile dream. However, there was actually a third path. If Shillian was to kill himself right now, then become a ghost and kill White No-Face, then he could become a Supreme and break through the kiln. Shillian finally snapped out of his shock. "Don't even think about it. Are you crazy? Just what do you want? Why must you do this? Have me become a Supreme? I'm not as crazy as you. Even if you want me to kill you, there is no way I can defeat you. The kiln won't recognize such a Supreme." It was the honest truth. To excel as a person didn't mean one could excel as a god, and to be able to become a god didn't mean one could become a ghost. However, White No-Face said, "Really? Don't be too sure." Then his other hand reached out. With the firelight not too far away, Shillian could see that a mask had appeared in that other hand, the exact same one as the one on White No-Face's face. "Do you remember this cry-smiling mask?" White No-Face asked. "It suits you." Shillian's eyes bulged, and terror was like a tide of insects, dense and packed as they crawled into his mind. He forced out weakly, "Take it away. Take it away." White No-Face started laughing. "It seems your Highness's memory isn't that great. If that's the case, let me help you remember. Then without giving him a chance to protest, that tragically pale, cry-smiling mask melted with the infinite darkness as it was heavily pressed onto Shillian's face.